The car of my son's mother-in-law was in the driveway. I crept upstairs, and what I saw broke me. That afternoon, I discovered that 30 years of love can be shattered in 30 seconds. My name is Mary Thompson. I am 58 years old, and this is the story I never thought I would have to tell. I smell fresh coffee every time I think about that afternoon. I don't know why. Maybe because coffee was always our morning ritual. Maybe because that aroma no longer exists in my kitchen. Let me tell you from the beginning. I had travelled out of town to Phoenix to visit my sister Sophia. She was in poor health and asked me to stay with her for 1 week. Robert, my husband, told me not to worry, that he would take care of the house and to take my time. Go ahead, Mary, your sister needs you. I'll be fine here. I trusted him, as I always trusted him. 30 years of marriage build that blind trust, right? Or at least, that's what I believed. But by the third day, something wouldn't let me sleep. A strange restlessness, a gut feeling that squeezed my chest. Sophia was doing better. She already had someone to look after her. And I felt I had to go back. I took the first bus in the morning. I didn't tell Robert. I wanted to surprise him. Maybe take him out for breakfast at his favourite diner. Maybe make him that pot roast he loved so much. I got home around noon. The sun was beating down hard. The street was empty, silent. And then I saw it. A car parked in my driveway. A grey Volkswagen Jetta. I knew that car. It was Margaret's car. Margaret Miller, my son David's mother-in-law, the mother of Lucy, my daughter-in-law. What was her car doing there? I stood still in front of the gate. My heart was pounding fast. I thought of 1,000 reasons. Maybe she had come to drop something off. Maybe she needed to talk to Robert about the grandkids. Maybe... I opened the door carefully. The house was silent. I went up the stairs slowly, step by step. The hardwood floor creaked under my feet. And then I heard it. Laughter. Laughter coming from my bedroom, from my master bedroom. Robert's laughter and a woman's laughter. I froze in the hallway. The door was slightly ajar. I didn't know whether to move forward. I didn't know whether to retreat. But something inside me, something stronger than fear, pushed me forward. I put my hand on the door. I opened it. And what I saw in there, what I saw in my own bedroom, changed my life forever. Robert was standing in front of the bed. He had 2 open suitcases, his clothes folded on the comforter, shirts, pants, his favourite shoes, and next to him, holding a blouse in her hands, helping him pack, was Margaret. They both turned around at the same time. They saw me in the doorway, and neither of them said a word. I couldn't speak either. The words were gone. The air was gone. I could only look at them, and in that silence, in that terrible silence, I knew that everything I believed, everything I had built, had just collapsed. Sometimes we trust too much in those we shouldn't. Have you also been disappointed by someone you loved? Tell me your story in the comments. I want to read them. Before I tell you what happened in that room, I need you to understand who we were. Robert and I met in 1985. I was 25 years old. I worked at an office supply store downtown. He came in every Friday to buy manila envelopes for his office. He always greeted me. He always smiled. One day he asked me out for a coffee. I accepted. And that coffee turned into 30 years of shared life. We got married on May 18th. It rained that day. My mother said that rain at weddings brought good luck. I believed her. Robert was an accountant, hard-working, responsible. He wasn't the most romantic man in the world, but he was constant. He came home every night. He helped me with his bills. He played with our son David in the yard. I remember the mornings. I would make strong black coffee. He would read the newspaper at the kitchen table. I would serve him a bagel with cream cheese, or maybe a donut, his favourites. "You know what, Mary?" he would sometimes say to me. "I don't need much to be happy. This is enough for me." And I believed him. We raised David together. We watched him grow up. We watched him graduate. We watched him marry Lucy, a sweet, well-mannered girl, Margaret Miller's daughter. Margaret was widowed young. She raised Lucy alone. I admired her for that. I thought we had something in common. We both knew what it was like to hold a family together through hard work. We became close. We drank coffee together when she came to visit Lucy. We talked about the grandkids, about recipes, about life. I trusted her. I trusted both of them. Our life wasn't perfect. We had arguments, like everyone. Robert was quiet, sometimes too quiet. I was intense, sometimes too intense. But I never imagined, that Robert's silence hid something like this. I remember one afternoon. It was 2 years ago. I was in the kitchen preparing meatloaf. Robert came home from work earlier than usual. "Is something wrong?" I asked him. "No, I just wanted to be home," he replied. He sat on the living room sofa. He turned on the television, but he wasn't watching it. His gaze was distant. I thought he was tired, that he'd had a bad day at the office. Now I know that day, maybe that very day, something had already begun. There were signs, small, almost invisible. Robert started going out more. "I'm going to help Margaret with some repairs at her house," he would say. "I'm going to go with her to the bank. She's afraid to go alone." I let him go. I thought he was a good man, a good family friend. How foolish I was. Sometimes, when we were in bed, I would ask him, "Are you okay, Robert?" "Yes, Mary, I'm fine." But his voice sounded distant, as if he was already somewhere else. And I kept trusting, because after 30 years, what else can you do but trust? As I tell all this, I think about where you might be listening to me. Write the name of your city in the comments. There was an exact moment when everything changed. I didn't see it then. But now, with time, I see it as clear as day. It was at my grandson Sebastian's birthday party. He was turning 5 years old. Lucy and David organized a gathering at their house. There were balloons, chocolate cake, a dinosaur-shaped piñata. The whole family was there. My sisters, the cousins, and of course, Margaret. I remember I arrived early that day to help Lucy with the food. We made barbecue pulled pork, coleslaw, and sweet tea. The kitchen smelled like spices and brown sugar. Robert arrived later. He said he had to finish some paperwork at the office. He walked through the door with a smile. He greeted everyone. He picked up Sebastian in his arms. "Grandpa!" the child shouted with that joy that only children have. I watched him from the kitchen. I was filled with tenderness, I thought. This is the man I will grow old with, my grandchildren's grandfather, my partner. How wrong I was. The party went on as normal. The kids played, the adults chatted, we ate, we laughed. At one point I went to the bathroom. When I came out, I walked down the hall, and I heard voices in the living room. It was Robert and Margaret. They were speaking softly, almost whispering. I stopped. I don't know why. Something in the tone caught my attention. "We can't go on like this," Margaret was saying. "I know, sir," Robert replied. "But it's not the right time yet." There was a silence. "I'm getting tired of waiting," she said. "Give me a little more time. Please." I stood paralyzed on the other side of the wall. My heart was pounding hard. What were they talking about? What were they waiting for? I thought about going in, asking them, but something stopped me. Fear, maybe, or denial. I went back to the kitchen. Lucy asked me if I was okay. I told her yes, that I was just tired. But I wasn't tired. I was scared. That night, when we got home, I asked Robert, "What were you talking about with Margaret at the party?" He looked at me, surprised. "When?" "In the living room. I heard you talking." He was silent for a moment. Then he smiled. That smile I knew so well. "Oh, that. She was asking me for advice about an investment. You know she doesn't understand much about those things." He kissed me on the forehead. "Let's go to sleep, Mary. You're tired." And I believed him, because it was easier to believe than to doubt. But starting that day, something broke inside me. A small crack, almost imperceptible. The following weeks were strange. Robert started getting calls that he wouldn't answer in front of me. He would go out onto the patio. He would speak softly. He would come back as if nothing happened. "Who was it?" I would ask him. "Work," he always said. One Saturday morning, his cell phone rang while he was in the shower. He left it on the kitchen table. I was making breakfast. I saw the screen light up. Margaret. The phone vibrated 3 times. 4. 5. I didn't answer. I didn't touch it. But I kept staring at it until it stopped ringing. When Robert came out of the bathroom, I told him, "Margaret called you." "Oh, right. It must be about Lucy's gift. I'll call her back later." Another explanation. There was always an explanation, and I always accepted it. But the crack was getting bigger. One afternoon, while I was cleaning Robert's car, I found a receipt. It was from a flower shop. Red roses, 12 roses. I hadn't received flowers in years. "Who were these flowers for?" I asked him that night. He didn't even seem nervous. "For the secretary at the office. It was her birthday. We all chipped in." I put the receipt in my purse. I didn't say anything else. But that night I couldn't sleep. I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, listening to Robert's breathing next to me. A deep, peaceful breath, while I was drowning in doubts. Was I going crazy? Was I inventing things that didn't exist? Or was I seeing what I didn't want to see? Months passed. The distance between us grew. We no longer drank coffee together in the mornings. He left early. He came back late. "There's a lot of work," he would say, and I would nod. I stopped asking, because I was afraid of the answers. I retreated into my routine, my friends, my grandchildren, the afternoon soap operas. Anything not to think, anything not to feel. But the day I decided to go to Phoenix to take care of my sister, something in Robert's look unsettled me. He seemed relieved, as if my absence was exactly what he was waiting for. "Go in peace, Mary. I'll take care of everything here." And I left, trusting, naive, blind, without knowing that when I returned, my life would no longer be the same. Sometimes we ignore the signs because it hurts less than facing the truth. Have you ever felt that something wasn't right, but preferred not to ask? Tell me in the comments. There is something no one tells you about pain, that you can live with it for months without even realizing it's there. I lived those months like a ghost in my own house. I smiled when I had to smile. I cooked when I had to cook. I cleaned. I ironed. I fulfilled my role as a wife. But inside, something was dying, and I did nothing to save it. Because admitting that something was wrong meant facing it. And facing it meant losing Robert, losing my marriage, losing the life I had built over 30 years. So I chose not to see. I chose to believe every explanation, every excuse, every lie disguised as truth. I remember one afternoon. It was about 2 months before my trip to Phoenix. I was at the grocery store buying vegetables for dinner. Tomatoes, jalapenos, onions. Suddenly I heard a familiar voice. Mary. It was my best friend, Estelle, a woman my age. We had been friends for years. We had known each other since our sons went to the same school. Estelle, it's good to see you, I said. But Estelle had a strange expression, one of discomfort. Mary, I need to tell you something, she said softly. My heart raced. What's wrong? She looked around. We moved away from the vegetable stand a bit. Look, I don't know if I should tell you this, but the other day I saw Robert. Oh yeah? I said with a forced smile. Where? He was at a restaurant, that Italian place near the mall. He was with a woman. My blood ran cold. A woman? Yes. I didn't get a good look at her, but they were at a back table, very close, talking. They seemed close. I tried to keep calm. I'm sure it was a co-worker or a client. Robert deals with a lot of people. Estelle looked at me with pity. Maybe, Mary. Maybe. But be careful, okay? She gave me a hug. She wished me luck. She left. And I stood there, with the grocery bags in my hands, feeling the floor move beneath my feet. I didn't say anything to Robert that night. I made dinner, chicken pot pie, his favorite. We ate in silence. He talked to me about his day, about the traffic, about a problem with a client. I nodded. I smiled. I acted. But inside I was screaming. Who was that woman? Why hadn't he told me about her? Why did he feel the need to hide it? I could have asked him. I should have asked him. But I didn't. Because I was terrified of the answer. The following days were the hardest of my life. Every time Robert left the house, I wondered, who is he with? Where is he really going? I started checking his clothes. I looked for signs, perfumes that weren't mine, lipstick stains, anything at all. But Robert was careful. I never found anything. One night, while he was sleeping, I took his cell phone. My hands were shaking. I knew it was wrong, that I was invading his privacy, but the pain was stronger than the guilt. I tried to unlock it, but it had a password I didn't know. Before, he had never had a password on his phone. I left it where it was. I went back to bed. I lay on my back to him and cried silently, very slowly so he wouldn't hear me. The next day I woke up early. I made the coffee. The same ritual as always. Robert came down for breakfast. He kissed me on the cheek as if everything was fine. Good morning, Mary. Good morning. I poured myself a cup of coffee. I sat across from him. Robert, are you happy with me? He looked up from the newspaper. What kind of question is that? I don't know. I feel like we don't talk like we used to, that you're distant. He was quiet for a moment. Then he smiled. I'm tired, Mary. Work has me stressed out, but everything is fine between us. Are you sure? Sure. He took my hand across the table. He looked me in the eyes. You're my wife. You always will be. And I believed him, because I needed to believe him, because the alternative was too painful. Weeks passed. I kept up with my routine. I washed, ironed, cooked, smiled. But inside I was falling apart. I stopped taking care of myself. What was the point? Robert no longer looked at me like he used to. He no longer told me I looked pretty. He no longer hugged me at night. I gained weight. I stopped wearing makeup. I wore the same clothes every day. My friends asked me if I was okay. Yes, just a little tired. My sisters invited me out. Another day. I have too much to do at home. I isolated myself, little by little, without realizing it. Until one day my sister Sophia called me. Mary, I need you to come. I feel very sick. The doctor says it's nothing serious, but I need help. Of course, sis, I'm on my way. I told Robert I would be gone for a week in Phoenix. I expected him to ask me not to go, to tell me he was going to miss me, that he wanted me to stay, but he didn't. Go easy. I'll take care of everything here. And in his eyes, I saw something that chilled my soul. Relief. I packed my suitcase that same afternoon. Clothes, medicines, a book I never read. Before leaving, I stood in the doorway of our bedroom. I saw the bed where we had slept together for so many years. I saw the photographs on the wall. Our wedding, David's birth, birthdays, Christmases. And I felt like I was saying goodbye to something, even though I didn't know what yet. Robert took me to the bus terminal. He kissed me on the forehead. Take care of yourself, Mary. You too. I got on the bus. I sat by the window. I watched him walk away. And as the bus left the city, as the familiar streets were left behind, I had a terrifying thought. What if when I come back, there's nothing left to come back to? I tried to shake off that idea. I told myself I was overreacting, that everything would be fine, that Robert would be waiting for me. But something deep inside me, something profound and ancient and wise, it knew I was lying. The days in Phoenix passed slowly. I took care of Sophia. I made her teas. I kept her company. We talked about life, about old times, but my mind was elsewhere. I called Robert every night. How are you? I would ask him. Good. Everything's quiet here. Did you eat well? Yes, don't worry. Short, empty, mechanical conversations. On the third day, Sophia told me, I'm better now, Mary. I already have someone to look after me. If you need to go home, do it. And then I felt that urgency, that need to return. It wasn't love calling me back. It was fear. Fear of what might be happening in my absence. I took the first bus in the morning. I sent Robert a text. I'm on my way back. I'll be home around noon. But he didn't see it, or he didn't want to see it. Throughout the trip, I tried to calm myself. I kept telling myself that everything would be fine, that I would get home, that Robert would be there, that he would hug me, that everything would go back to the way it was. But when the bus reached the terminal, when I took a taxi home, when I saw my street, my heart was pounding so hard I thought my chest was going to explode. And when I saw that grey Volkswagen Jetta parked in my driveway, I knew that everything I had been denying, everything I had been avoiding, was about to blow up in my face. As I tell all this, I think about where you might be listening to me. Write the name of your city in the comments. There are moments in life that are etched into your memory with brutal clarity, like photographs that never fade, like scars that never completely heal. That moment in front of my bedroom door was one of them. Robert was staring at me, his eyes that I had known for 30 years. Suddenly they seemed like those of a stranger. Margaret was beside him. She was holding one of Robert's shirts, a blue shirt that I had ironed just last week. No one spoke. The silence was so dense I could feel it on my skin, like a pressure in my chest, like water entering my lungs. It was Margaret who broke that silence. Mary, But she didn't finish the sentence, because there were no words. There was no explanation that could make sense of what I was seeing. My voice came out broken, barely a whisper. What is happening here? Robert looked down, letting out a long sigh, as if of resignation, as if he had been waiting for this moment for a long time. Sit down, Mary, he said. I don't want to sit down, I replied. I want you to tell me what is happening. Why is she here? Why are you packing your things? Margaret dropped the shirt on the bed. She put a hand on her chest. She looked nervous, guilty. I should go, she said with a trembling voice. No, I said with a firmness I didn't know I had. You're not going anywhere. I want answers. Now. Robert ran a hand through his hair, a gesture I knew well. He did it when he was nervous, when he had to make a difficult decision. Mary, this wasn't supposed to happen this way. I was going to talk to you. I was going to explain everything. But what, Robert? I interrupted him. But I went on a trip and you took advantage of it to do this. I pointed to the suitcases, the clothes, everything. He closed his eyes for a moment, took a deep breath, and when he opened them again, there was something different in his look. Something that terrified me more than anything. Determination. Mary, Margaret and I have been seeing each other for a while. The words fell like stones, one by one, heavy, cold. Seeing each other, I repeated. What does that mean? But I knew what it meant. Of course I did. I just wanted him to say it, to confess it, to give me that truth I had been denying for months. It means that we're in a relationship, Robert said. I had to hold on to the doorframe. My legs were shaking. A relationship? Since when? There was a silence. 2 years, Margaret said softly. 2 years. 2 years. The phrase repeated in my head like an echo, like a drum, like a scream. 2 years, I repeated. 2 years. And I didn't know anything. I felt stupid, naive, blind. How had I not seen it? How had I not realized? Mary, I wanted to tell you sooner, Robert said. But I didn't know how. I didn't want to hurt you. I laughed. It was a bitter, painful laugh. You didn't want to hurt me, and you think this doesn't hurt me. He didn't answer. I looked at Margaret, that woman I had had coffee with so many times, shared recipes with, planned the grandkids' parties with. How could you? I asked her. I trusted you. I treated you like a friend. Margaret had tears in her eyes. I'm sorry, Mary. I didn't plan for this to happen. It just happened. Things don't just happen, I said with rage. Things happen because you allow them, because you seek them out, because you choose to betray the people who trust you. Robert took a step toward me. Mary, don't talk to her like that. I'm also to blame, more to blame than she is. And in that moment I understood something terrible. Robert was defending her, not me, her. You're defending her? I asked, incredulous. Seriously? I'm just saying it's not fair for you to blame only her. I made the decision to be with Margaret. I started this. And what about me, Robert? What about us? What about our marriage? What about the 30 years we spent together? He was silent for a moment. Then he spoke with a voice I had never heard from him before. Cold, distant. Mary, our marriage stopped working a long time ago. I felt like I had been punched in the stomach. What? We're not happy together anymore. You know it. I know it. We've been like this for years, just coexisting. I was happy, I said with a broken voice. I was happy with you. But I wasn't, Mary. And I'm sorry, I really am. But I can't keep pretending. Tears started streaming down my cheeks. I couldn't control them. I didn't want to control them. So, what? You're going to leave with her? Robert nodded slowly. Yes. When? Today. Now. That's why I was packing. I was going to leave you a letter. I was going to explain everything. A letter, I repeated with contempt. 30 years of marriage, and you were going to leave me a letter. Mary, no, I interrupted him. Don't say my name. Don't talk to me as if you know me, as if I matter to you. Margaret started crying silently, but I could no longer feel compassion for her. I couldn't feel anything but pain. And what about our family? I asked. What about David? What about the grandkids? Didn't you think about them? Of course I thought about them, Robert said. But I also have to think about myself, about my happiness. Your happiness, I screamed. And what about mine? But he didn't answer, because in his mind, my happiness no longer mattered. I wiped the tears with the back of my hand. I breathed deeply. I tried to regain some composure. Do you love her? I asked. Robert looked at Margaret, and in that look I saw something I hadn't seen in years. Tenderness. Yes, he replied. I love her. And there it was. The truth. Complete, raw, devastating. My husband loved another woman, and that woman was Margaret, my son's mother-in-law, my grandchildren's grandmother, the woman who sat at my table, who ate from my plates, who received my trust. I want both of you to leave my house, I said with a firm voice. Now. Robert started putting his clothes in the suitcases. Margaret helped him, as if they were a team, as if they had practiced this. I stood in the doorway, watching them, unable to move. In 10 minutes, the suitcases were ready. Robert carried one, Margaret the other. They walked past me without looking. They went downstairs. I followed them. Every stair was a blow. Every step was a goodbye. They reached the front door. Robert stopped. He turned to me. Mary, Leave, I said. Just leave. He opened his mouth as if he was going to say something else, but he didn't. He walked out the door. Margaret followed him. I watched them load the suitcases into the grey Jetta. I watched them get into the car. I watched them drive away. And I stood there, in the entrance of my house, watching the man I had shared my life with drive away, with another woman, forever. When the car disappeared at the end of the street, I closed the door. I leaned against it and slid to the floor. There, alone in the hallway of my empty house, I cried harder than I had cried my entire life. I cried for the marriage I had lost, for the man I had trusted, for the life I had built that had collapsed in a matter of minutes. I cried until I had no more tears, until the sun began to set, until the house filled with shadows. And when I could finally get up from the floor, when I could finally breathe without my chest hurting, I realized something. This wasn't just my house. It was our house. And now it was full of memories that hurt me just to look at them. I went up to the bedroom. I saw the bed where we had slept together. I saw the empty closet where his clothes used to hang. And then I saw something on the pillow. A white envelope, with my name written in Robert's handwriting. The letter. The damn letter he was going to leave me. I picked it up with trembling hands. I opened it. I read, Dear Mary, I know this is going to hurt you, and believe me, there is nothing I regret more in this world. But the time has come to be honest. 2 years ago, I got to know Margaret in a different way. At first we were just friends. We talked. We understood each other. She listened to me in a way I hadn't felt listened to in a long time, and little by little I fell in love with her. I tried to fight against it. I swear to you. I tried to move forward with you, but I couldn't. I can't keep lying. I can't keep living a life that no longer feels like mine. You deserve someone who truly loves you, and I deserve to be happy. I hope that someday you can forgive me. Robert. I read the letter 3 times, and with each reading I felt more rage. Forgiveness. He was asking me for forgiveness. I tore the letter into 1,000 pieces. I let them fall to the floor. And there, in the middle of that room that smelled of betrayal and forgetfulness, I swore that I would never, ever allow anyone to make me feel so small again, so invisible, so foolish. I still wonder if I did the right thing by letting them go without fighting harder. And you? What would you have done in my place? The first few days after Robert left were the darkest of my life. I didn't eat. I didn't sleep. All I could do was walk around the house like a lost soul, touching the walls, looking at the photographs, trying to understand how I had gotten here, how my life had become this. The house was silent, a silence I had never felt before, because even when Robert and I weren't talking, his presence filled the spaces, his steps, his breathing, the sound of his keys in the lock. Now there was nothing, only me, and the echo of my own voice when I dared to speak out loud. Why? I asked the empty walls. Why wasn't I enough? But the walls didn't answer. On the 3rd day, the phone rang. It was David, my son. Mum, is it true? His voice sounded broken, hurt. What is true, son? What Lucy just told me. That Dad left. That he's with Lucy's mother. I closed my eyes. The tears came again. I thought I had no more tears left, but there were always more. Yes, son, it's true. I heard a sob on the other end of the line. It can't be, Mum. It can't be. Dad wouldn't do that. He loves us. He loves all of us. I know, David. I thought so too. When did it happen? How did it happen? I told him everything. From the beginning. From the suspicions. From Sebastian's birthday party. From the trip to Phoenix. From the moment I found them in my bedroom. David listened in silence. He only interrupted with choked sobs. When I finished, there was a long silence. Mum, I didn't know anything. I swear. I know, son. This is not your fault at all. How is Lucy? I asked carefully. Devastated, he replied. She can't believe her mother did this. She says she feels betrayed, ashamed. I felt a pang of pain for Lucy. She was innocent in all of this. A good girl, a good mother, and now she carried the burden of her mother's shame. Give her a hug from me, I told David. Tell her this isn't her fault, that I don't blame her. And Dad? David asked with a trembling voice. Do you blame him? The question took my breath away. I don't know, son. I don't know yet. I'm trying to understand, to process, to survive. Can I come over, Mum? No, son, not yet. I need to be alone for a while. I need to think. But I don't want you to be alone. I'll be fine. I promise you. We hung up, and I was alone again in that house that no longer felt like a home. Days turned into weeks. I still didn't go out. My sisters called. My friends knocked on the door. But I didn't open it. I didn't want to see anyone. I didn't want them to see me like this, destroyed, broken, empty. One afternoon, While cleaning out Robert's closet, I found a shoebox hidden in the back. I opened it, and what I saw inside broke me in a different way. Letters, dozens of handwritten letters, all from Margaret. I took them out one by one. I read them all. They were love letters. Letters where she told Robert how much she loved him, how much she missed him, how much she longed for the day they could be together without hiding. There were letters from 2 years ago, letters from 1 year ago, letters from just 2 months ago. In one of them, Margaret wrote, "My love, I know this is difficult for both of us. I know Mary doesn't deserve this, but we don't deserve to live unhappily either. Life is short, and I want to live it with you, only with you. Soon, my love, soon we will be together. I love you more than words can say." I read that letter over and over. I know Mary doesn't deserve this. At least she had the decency to admit it, to know that what they were doing was wrong, but not enough decency to stop. I kept reading, and in another letter from 6 months ago, Margaret wrote, "Robert, it's getting harder and harder for me to see you at family gatherings and pretend we're just friends. To see Mary serve you coffee, how she smiles at you, how she trusts you. It breaks my heart. But at the same time, it makes me angry, because I know that when you're with her, you're thinking about me, right? Tell me you're thinking about me." I felt sick. All those times Margaret came to my house, all those times she ate at my table, that she drank coffee with me, that she talked about her problems, that she asked me for advice. She was thinking about my husband. She was lusting after my husband. She was planning to steal my husband. And worst of all, I never saw it coming. I put the letters back in the box. I hid them in the back of the closet. I didn't want to see them anymore. But I couldn't throw them away either, because they were the proof, the evidence, the tangible truth that my marriage had been a lie for 2 years. That night I couldn't sleep. I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, thinking, remembering. And then I remembered something. A year ago. It was at our Mother's Day lunch. The whole family was gathered. David, Lucy, the grandkids, Margaret. I had made turkey with all the fixings, mashed potatoes, gravy, everything Robert liked. We were sitting at the table, toasting, laughing. And at one moment, when no one was looking, I saw Robert and Margaret exchange a look. It was only a second. But in that second, I saw something I didn't understand then. Complicity, desire, secrecy. And I ignored it. I thought I was imagining things, that my mind was playing tricks on me. But it wasn't my mind. It was the truth screaming in my face, and I didn't want to listen. I got out of bed. I went down to the kitchen. I made a cup of chamomile tea. My hands were shaking. I sat at the table. The same table where we had eaten breakfast together for 30 years. And then I cried again. But this time I didn't cry for Robert. I cried for me. For the woman I had been. The woman who trusted, who believed, who loved without reservations. That woman no longer existed, and I didn't know who the woman was who had taken her place. Another month passed. Slowly I started leaving the house. First, just to the grocery store, then to church, then to visit my sisters. People looked at me with pity. I knew they were talking about me, that they were commenting, that they were whispering. Poor Mary. Her husband left her for her son's mother-in-law. What a shame. What a scandal. But I held my head high. I wasn't going to give them the satisfaction of seeing me destroyed, even though I was, inside. One day, while I was at the grocery store buying vegetables, someone touched my shoulder. I turned around. It was my friend Estelle. the one who had warned me about Robert at the restaurant. "Mary," she said softly, "how are you?" "I'm fine." I lied. She looked at me with those eyes that knew everything. "You don't have to pretend with me, Mary." And then I collapsed. Right there, in the middle of the market, among the stands of tomatoes and jalapenos and onions. Estelle hugged me. She let me cry on her shoulder. There, Mary. Cry all you need to." When I calmed down a little, she took me to a nearby cafe. She ordered 2 coffees. We sat down. "Tell me," she said. And I told her everything. Absolutely everything. The letters, the lies, the betrayal, the pain. She just nodded. She just squeezed my hand. When I finished, she sighed. "Mary, what I'm about to tell you, you might not want to hear, but I'm going to say it anyway." I wiped my tears. "Tell me." "Robert doesn't deserve your tears. He doesn't deserve your pain. He made a decision, and now he has to live with that decision." "But I loved him, Estelle. I still love him." "I know, and that's what hurts the most. But love is not enough when the other person is no longer there, when the other person has already chosen another path. And what do I do now? How do I move on?" Estelle looked at me intently. "You get up, you dust yourself off, and you remember who you were before him, because Mary Thompson didn't start with Robert, and she won't end with him." Her words stayed with me. That night when I returned home, I looked in the mirror for the first time in weeks. I saw a woman of 58 years old, with wrinkles, with grey hair, with tired eyes. But I also saw a woman who had survived, who was still standing, who was still breathing. And then I made a decision. I wasn't going to let this destroy me. I wasn't going to let Robert and Margaret take away my dignity. I had lost my marriage. I had lost the life I knew, but I hadn't lost myself. And that was the only thing that really mattered. I cut my hair. I bought new clothes. I started walking every morning, taking care of my garden, reading the books I had let pile up on the nightstand. Little by little, the house stopped feeling like a tomb, and it started to feel like a new beginning. But just when I was starting to feel like I could breathe again, just when I was starting to think that maybe, just maybe, I could be happy again, I received a call that changed everything. It was David. "Mum, I need you to come over. It's urgent." "What's wrong, son?" "It's about Dad and Margaret. There's something you need to know. Something that changes everything." My heart raced. "What is it?" "I can't tell you over the phone. I need you to come to my house. Now." He hung up. I stood in the middle of the living room, holding the phone, my heart pounding so loudly I could hear it in my ears. What else could there be? What else could they have hidden from me? I grabbed my keys. I left the house. I got in the car. And as I drove towards David's house, I felt like I was about to discover something. Something that would explain everything or make everything worse. I didn't know which of the two, but I was about to find out. Sometimes, when you think you already know everything, life shows you that you are only seeing the surface. Have you ever discovered a truth that completely changed your perspective? Tell me in the comments. The drive to David's house felt eternal. Every traffic light was torture. Every minute that passed, I felt my heart beat faster, harder, more desperately. What could be so urgent? What else was there that I didn't know? I thought of all the possibilities. Maybe Robert was sick. Maybe he was going to marry Margaret. Maybe they had discovered that the relationship had started before the 2 years they told me. Every thought was worse than the last. When I arrived at David's house, I saw his car parked outside. And Lucy's, too. The living room lights were on. I rang the doorbell. My hands were shaking. David opened the door. His eyes were red, as if he had been crying. "Mum," he said, and hugged me tightly. I went inside the house. Lucy was sitting on the sofa. She had also been crying. When she saw me, she stood up and ran towards me. "Mrs. Mary, I am so sorry, so very sorry." I hugged her. Poor girl. She wasn't to blame for any of this, and yet she carried the weight of the shame. "It's okay, honey. You didn't do anything wrong." We all three sat down in the living room. There was a heavy, uncomfortable silence. "Well," I said, trying to keep calm, "what is so urgent? What happened?" David and Lucy looked at each other, as if neither of them wanted to be the first to speak. Finally, it was Lucy who broke the silence. "Mrs. Mary, I went to see my mother." Her voice broke. David took her hand. "I know I told you I didn't want to see her, that I was so angry with her. And I am. But she is my mother. And I needed to know. I needed to know why she did what she did." I nodded. I perfectly understood that feeling, that need for answers. "And what did she tell you?" Tears began to roll down her cheeks. "She told me many things. She told me she fell in love with Mr. Robert 2 years ago, that at first she tried to fight against it, that she knew it was wrong, but that she couldn't help it." I felt a pang in my chest, but I let her continue. "She told me that Mr. Robert loved her too, that he had told her that his marriage to you was already dead, that there was no more love, that he was only staying out of habit." I closed my eyes. Robert's words in that letter echoed in my head. "Our marriage stopped working a long time ago." "But that's not the worst part, Mrs. Mary," Lucy continued with a trembling voice. I opened my eyes. "What else is there?" My mother confessed to me that she was the one who started everything." "What do you mean?" "That she seduced Mr. Robert. She sought him out. She pursued him. It wasn't something that simply happened, like she had told me before." I felt the floor moving beneath my feet. "What?" David intervened. "Mum, what Lucy is trying to tell you is that Margaret planned everything from the beginning." "I don't understand," I said, confused. "Why? Why would she do something like that?" Lucy sobbed. Because my mother was obsessed with having a partner, with not being alone. When my father died, she was devastated. She felt invisible. She felt old. And then she saw Mr. Robert." "Are you telling me that your mother set her sights on my husband deliberately?" Lucy nodded. "Yes, she told me that at first she only admired how he was with you, how he treated you, how he was with the family, and she started fantasizing about having something like that, about having someone like that." I felt sick. "And then she started getting closer to him," Lucy continued. "She started asking him for favors, if he would help her with some repairs, if he would go with her to the bank, if he would give her advice. All those times Robert went out to help Margaret. All those times I had let him go without suspecting anything. And little by little," David said with a voice full of rage, "she worked her way into his head, making him believe that you no longer valued him, that you no longer saw him, that he deserved something better." "My God," I whispered. "My mother told me it took her almost a year," Lucy continued. "A year of conversations, of confiding in him, of playing the victim, of being the understanding woman who listened to him. Until finally Mr. Robert gave in." I fell silent, processing, trying to understand. Margaret hadn't just been the other woman. She had been the architect of my destruction. "But there's more, Mum," David said in a grave voice. More? I asked, incredulous. What else can there be? Lucy also found out something about the money. I looked at Lucy. She had her head down, as if she was ashamed of what she was about to say. Mrs. Mary, when I went to see my mother, I saw that she was living in a very nice, very expensive apartment. I asked her how she could afford it. She told me that Mr. Robert was helping her. Robert is paying for her apartment? I asked, stunned. Not only that, David intervened. He's also paying for her car, her credit cards, everything. I felt the blood rush to my head. With what money? I asked. Robert doesn't earn that much. We've always been careful with money. Always. I stopped. I remembered something. About 6 months ago, Robert told me we needed to adjust the family budget, that things were difficult, that we had to save. I had believed him. I had started buying less, spending less, saving every dime, while he was spending that money on another woman. Mum, David said with a trembling voice. I checked the bank accounts, the ones in both your names. Dad has been transferring money to Margaret's account for over a year. How much? I asked. A lot, Mum. Too much. I felt like I was going to throw up. That money belonged to both of us. That money was for our family, for our future, for… I couldn't finish the sentence. The rage was choking me. There's something else you need to know, Mum, David said in an almost inaudible voice. I don't know if I can listen anymore, I said with a broken voice. You need to know, he insisted. Dad and Margaret are planning to leave the country. The world stopped. What? Lucy overheard her mother talking on the phone with a travel agency. They're planning to go live in Italy in 2 months. Italy, I repeated like an echo. Yes, they're going to sell Margaret's apartment. They're going to use the money from the accounts. And they're going to leave. Far away, where no one knows them, where no one will judge them. I stood up from the sofa. I couldn't stay sitting. I couldn't stay still. I paced the living room, back and forth, trying to breathe, trying to think. Mum, sit down, please, David asked me. But I couldn't. All this time, I said aloud. All this time I thought Robert had made a mistake, that he had fallen in love, that things had happened without him planning them. But no, this was premeditated, calculated. He knew exactly what he was doing. He stole from me, I screamed. He stole the money, he stole the years, he stole the trust. He stole everything that was mine. David stood up and hugged me. I was shaking from head to toe. And what do I do now? I asked through sobs. What am I supposed to do with all this? Whatever you decide, Mum. But we are with you. Always. Lucy also approached. She took my hand. Mrs. Mary, I know my mother did something terrible, something unforgivable. And if you decide you don't want to see me again, I will understand. I looked her in the eyes. I saw in her the same pain I felt, the same feeling of betrayal. You are not your mother, Lucy. This is not your fault at all, and I will never blame you for her decisions. Lucy burst into tears. I hugged her. We both cried together. David hugged both of us. And there, in that living room, the three of us held each other up. Because that's what a family does. It holds each other up, even when everything is falling apart. I stayed at David's house that night. I didn't want to be alone. I couldn't be alone. I lay down in the guest room, but I didn't sleep. I couldn't sleep. My mind wouldn't stop. It kept going over everything I had discovered. Margaret had planned everything. Robert had been stealing money from me. They were going to leave the country. And I was going to be left here, alone, empty, with nothing. But then I remembered something my mother had told me many years ago, when I was a little girl and had fallen off my bicycle. Mary, life is going to knock you down many times, but the important thing is not how many times you fall, it's how many times you get up. I got out of bed. I went to the kitchen. I poured myself a glass of water. And there, in the darkness of that unfamiliar kitchen, I made another decision. I wasn't going to let Robert and Margaret get away with it. I wasn't going to let them steal from me and disappear as if I didn't matter. I wasn't going to be the silent victim. I was going to do something. I didn't know what yet, but I was going to do something. The next morning, I woke up early. David was already up, making coffee. "Good morning, Mum. Did you sleep well?" "No, but I'm okay." I sat at the kitchen table. David poured me a cup of coffee. "Mum, I know this has been very hard, but I want you to know that I'm going to talk to Dad. I'm going to tell him that what he's doing is wrong." "What?" "No." I interrupted him. "Don't talk to him. Not yet." "Why not?" "Because first I need to think. I need to decide what I'm going to do. And when I decide, when I'm ready, then you can talk to him." David looked at me, confused. "What are you planning, Mum?" I smiled. It was a sad smile, but also a determined one. "I'm planning to take back my life, son. I'm planning to take back my dignity." "And how are you going to do that?" "I don't know yet, but I'll figure it out." I stayed at David's house for 2 more days. In those 2 days, my mind didn't stop working. I thought about confronting Robert. But what would be the point? I had already confronted him once. I had already asked him for explanations, and he had chosen to leave anyway. I thought about confronting Margaret, but she had already shown who she was. A woman without scruples, without conscience, without remorse. I thought about hiring a lawyer, about fighting for the money, about making public everything they had done. But then I realized something. I didn't want revenge. I wanted peace. And peace wasn't going to come from the outside. It was going to come from within. I had to find a way to forgive. Not for them, but for me. Because if I didn't forgive, if I kept carrying all that rage, I would end up destroying myself. And Robert and Margaret had already taken too much from me. I wasn't going to give them the satisfaction of taking my peace too. I returned to my house. I walked through the door. I looked around. Everything was the same. But at the same time, everything was different. Because I was different. I went up to my bedroom. I opened Robert's closet. I took out all the clothes he had left. All of it. I put it in bags, one by one. Then I went down to the garage. I looked for old boxes. I filled them with his books, his CDs, his photographs, everything that was his, everything that reminded me of him. I packed it all, and when I finished, I called David. "Son, come over, please. I need you to help me take some things." "What things, Mum?" "Your dad's things. I'm going to send them to him, wherever he's living now." There was a silence. "Are you sure, Mum?" "Completely sure." David arrived that afternoon with a truck. Between the two of us, we loaded all the boxes, all the bags. Everything that had been Robert's left my house that day, and when the last box went out the door, I felt like I could breathe again. "Mum," David said before leaving, "I'm proud of you." "Why, son?" "Because you're being strong, because you're choosing to move forward, because you're not letting yourself be defeated." I hugged him. "Thank you, son, for being here, for supporting me, for being the man your father should have been." David left, and I was alone in my house. But this time the loneliness didn't feel heavy. It felt liberating. I walked through every room, touching the walls, looking at the empty spaces. And in every empty space, I saw a possibility of starting over, of rediscovering myself, of being whoever I wanted to be, without having to be anyone's wife. That night, I slept better than I had in months, and when I woke up the next morning, the sun was coming through the window in a different way, brighter, warmer, as if the universe was telling me, "Go ahead, Mary, your life is just beginning." I still wonder if I did the right thing by letting them go without fighting harder. And you? What would you have done in my place? 3 months passed since the day I took all of Robert's things out of my house. 3 months in which my life began to change in ways I never imagined. At first it was difficult, very difficult. There were days when I would wake up and for a second forget that Robert was no longer there. I would reach out to his side of the bed and find only cold sheets. Those days were the worst. But little by little, very slowly, I began to get used to my new reality. I started doing things I had stopped doing during the marriage, small things, things that seemed silly, but that meant freedom to me. I signed up for dance classes, ballroom, something I always wanted to do, but that Robert said was ridiculous at our age. I started painting. I bought canvases, brushes, oils, and even though I had no talent, it gave me peace to see the colours mixing on the canvas. I started hanging out with my friends again, with Estelle, with the women I had neglected by being locked up in my pain, and little by little I began to remember who Mary Thompson was before she was Robert's wife. She was a strong woman, a woman with dreams, a woman with her own voice. And that woman was still there. She was just buried under years of marriage and routine, but she was ready to come out. One afternoon, while I was at the grocery store buying flowers for my house, I saw someone familiar. It was Margaret. My blood ran cold. She was alone, looking at some vegetables. She had shorter hair, better dressed than before. She looked different. For a moment, I thought about turning around, leaving, avoiding the confrontation, but something inside me stopped me. No, I wasn't going to run away. Not anymore. I walked towards her, slowly, my heart pounding hard. When I was close, I said her name. Margaret. She turned around. When she saw me, she turned pale. She froze. "Mary, I need to talk to you," I said firmly. "I don't think that's a good idea," she replied with a trembling voice. "I'm not asking you. I'm telling you." She looked around. People were looking at us. She lowered her voice. "Okay, but not here. Can we go somewhere else? There's a coffee shop 2 blocks away. I'll meet you there in 10 minutes. I didn't wait for her answer. I turned around and left the grocery store. 10 minutes later, I was sitting at a table in the coffee shop. I ordered a black coffee. My hands were shaking a little, but I forced myself to remain calm. Margaret walked in. She saw me. She walked slowly towards the table. She sat down across from me. Neither of us spoke for a moment. Finally, it was I who broke the silence. "Why did you do it?" Margaret looked down. "Mary, Don't give me excuses. Just tell me the truth. Why did you destroy my marriage?" She took a deep breath. When she looked up, she had tears in her eyes. "Because I was alone. Because I was afraid." "Why?" "Because I saw in Robert what I had lost when my husband died." "So what you felt wasn't love," I said. "It was fear. Fear of being alone. Fear of growing old alone." "Maybe at first," she admitted. "But then I did fall in love with him." "And does that justify what you did? Does that justify you deceiving me? You coming to my house? You eating at my table? You pretending to be my friend while stabbing me in the back?" Margaret started crying. No, it doesn't justify it. Nothing I say justifies it. I know what I did was wrong, very wrong, and if I could go back in time. But you can't, I interrupted her. The damage is done. The marriage is destroyed. The family is broken. And all because of your selfishness. I know, she sobbed. I know, and I'm sorry. Every day I hate myself for what I did. I stared at her intently, looking in her eyes for something. I don't know what. True remorse, repentance. And yes, I saw it. It was there, but it no longer mattered. Lucy told me everything, I said. She told me that you were the one who started everything, that you planned it, that you deliberately seduced Robert. Margaret covered her face with her hands. Yes, it's true, it's all true. I also know that Robert is giving you money, money that belonged to both of us, money from our family. Mary, I didn't ask him. I don't care if you asked him or not. You accepted it, knowing where it came from, knowing that it was money he was stealing from me. You're right, she said with a broken voice. You're absolutely right. And I know that you were going to leave the country, that you were going to flee, to escape, as if what you did didn't matter. Margaret looked up. She wiped her tears. We're not going anymore. I was silent. That was unexpected. What? We're not going to Italy anymore. Robert cancelled everything. Why? Because David confronted him. He told him that if we left, he would never speak to him again, that he would lose his son, his grandchildren, his family. And Robert couldn't do it. I felt something in my chest. I don't know if it was relief or sadness, maybe both. So you're staying here, I said. Yes, but things are not good between us. What do you mean? Margaret sighed. Robert is remorseful, not about being with me, but about how things happened, about hurting you, about losing his son's respect, about breaking the family. Well, he should have thought about that before. I know, and I've told him. But he's not the same anymore. He doesn't talk to me like he used to. He doesn't look at me like he used to. It's as if he's realizing everything he lost. I remained silent, processing her words. And you? I asked her. Are you remorseful? Margaret looked me in the eyes. Yes, I am remorseful. Not about loving Robert, but about the way I did it, about hurting you, about hurting Lucy, about destroying so many things because of my selfishness. Does Lucy talk to you? No. It's been 3 months since she talked to me. She sent me a message saying she needed time, that she couldn't see me, that every time she saw me, she felt ashamed. I saw genuine pain in her eyes, mother's pain, that pain you feel when you've lost the respect of your own child. And for a moment, just for a moment, I felt pity for her. But pity didn't change anything. Do you know what hurts me the most, Margaret? I asked her. What? It's not that Robert fell in love with another woman. That can happen. The heart is unpredictable. What hurts me the most is that both of you lied to me, that you looked me in the eyes and deceived me, that you made me feel like I was crazy for suspecting, that you stole the opportunity for me to decide for myself what to do with my life. Margaret nodded in silence. You're right, and there's nothing I can say to fix that. No, there isn't. I took a sip of my coffee. It was already cold, but I drank it anyway. Does Robert know you're here? I asked. No, he doesn't go out much. He stays locked up in the apartment, working, thinking. And you? I'm trying to move on with my life, but it's difficult, very difficult. I lost my daughter. I lost the family's respect. I lost everything. You chose to lose all that, I reminded her. No one forced you. I know. We remained silent for a while longer. The noise of the coffee shop filled the space between us. Finally, I spoke. Margaret, I came here because I needed to tell you something. Tell me. I forgive you. She was stunned. She looked at me as if she hadn't heard correctly. What? I forgive you, I repeated. Not for you, but for me, because I've spent the last few months carrying rage and pain, and that rage is destroying me, and I won't let it destroy me anymore. Tears rolled down her cheeks again. Mary, I don't need you to say anything. I just need you to understand something. Forgiving you doesn't mean that what you did was right. It doesn't mean we're going to be friends. It doesn't mean I'm going to forget. It means I'm no longer going to let this consume me. Thank you, she whispered. Thank you, Mary. And there's something else I need to tell you. What? The money Robert gave you, the money that belonged to our family. I want it back. Margaret turned pale. Mary, I already spent a lot of that money. The apartment, the car, I don't care, I interrupted her. Find a way. Sell everything if necessary. But that money belongs to me, and I'm going to get it back. Okay, she said with a trembling voice. You're right. I'll talk to Robert. We'll find a way. You have 2 months, I said firmly. If I don't have my money back in 2 months, I'm going to hire a lawyer, and I'm going to make this public. The whole town is going to know what you did. And believe me, Margaret, you don't want that. No, I don't want that. I promise you'll have your money. I got up from the table. I left a $5 bill to pay for my coffee. One last thing, I said before leaving. What? Take care of Robert, because after everything you sacrificed to have him, after everything you destroyed, it would be a shame for you to realize that he wasn't worth it. And with that, I walked out of the coffee shop. I walked down the street. The sun was setting. The sky was orange and pink. Beautiful. And as I walked, I felt something I hadn't felt in months. Peace. It wasn't a complete peace. There was still pain. There were still scars. But it was a beginning. The following days were different, lighter. I no longer thought about Robert all the time. I no longer wondered what he was doing, who he was with, if he was happy. I no longer cared. My focus was on me, on my healing, on my future. One afternoon, David came to visit me. He brought the kids, Sebastian and Sophia, my 3-year-old granddaughter. The children ran through the house, filling it with laughter, with life. Mum, you look different, David told me as we were drinking coffee in the kitchen. Different how? More calm, more you. I smiled. I feel more like myself, for the first time in a long time. I'm glad, Mum. Really. How is your dad? I asked. Not because I cared, but because I knew David needed to talk about it. David sighed. Not well. He's sad, remorseful. He says he wants to talk to you. And what did you tell him? That he had to respect your time. That if someday you wanted to talk to him, you would reach out to him, but not to pressure you. Thank you, son. Will you ever forgive him? He asked me cautiously. I thought about his question. The truth is, I didn't know. I don't know, David. Maybe someday, but that day is not today. And maybe it won't be tomorrow. Maybe it will take years, or maybe it will never come. And that's okay. I don't have to forgive him to move forward. David nodded. You're very strong, Mum. Stronger than I thought. I'm not strong, son. I'm just surviving, day by day. Well, that's more than many people manage to do. That night, after David and the kids left, I sat in my garden. The same garden that had been neglected for months. There were flowers that I had planted a few weeks ago. Roses, sunflowers, daisies. I watched them grow. I watched them open up to the sun. And I understood something. I was like those flowers. I had been withered, abandoned, without light. But now I was growing again, slowly but growing, and that was enough. A few days later, I received a call from an unknown number. I answered cautiously. Hello? Mary, it's Robert. My blood ran cold. I didn't expect to hear his voice. What do you want? I asked coldly. I need to talk to you, please. We have nothing to talk about. Yes, we do. It's about the money. Margaret told me you went to see her, that you asked her to give you the money back. That's right. That money is mine. I know, and you're right. I'm going to give it all back to you. Everything. I was surprised. I didn't expect him to agree so easily. When? In 2 weeks. I'm going to sell some things, and I'll make the transfer to your account. Okay. There was an awkward silence. Mary, can we meet? Just once. I need to tell you something. No. Please. I only ask for a few minutes. Robert, I have nothing to say to you. And honestly, I'm not interested in what you have to say to me. Robert, give me my money back. And then please, leave me alone. I hung up. My hands were shaking. But I felt proud. Proud of having set boundaries. Proud of having said no. Proud of having chosen my peace over his need to feel forgiven. 2 weeks later, I received a bank transfer. It was all the money Robert had taken from me, to the last cent. Along with the transfer, there was a message. Mary, here is the money. I am so sorry for all the pain I caused you. I know I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I want you to know that it was never my intention to hurt you. You were a good wife, a good woman, and I was an idiot for not valuing you. I hope you're happy. I really do. Robert. I read the message 3 times, then I deleted it. Not because I was angry, but because I no longer needed to keep it. I no longer needed his repentance to heal. I no longer needed his validation to know my worth. I already knew who I was, and that was enough. As I tell all this, I think about where you might be listening to me. Write the name of your city in the comments. 1 year. A full year since the day I found Robert packing his suitcases with Margaret in my bedroom. A year in which my life had done a complete turnaround. I was no longer the same woman I had been. I was no longer the Mary who waited for her husband with coffee ready every morning. I was no longer the Mary who lived to please others. Now I was the Mary who lived for herself. I had returned to work, something I hadn't done since before I got married. I got a job at a bookstore downtown. It didn't pay much, but it wasn't about the money. It was about having a purpose, about having something of my own. My days were full. Dance classes on Tuesdays and Thursdays, painting on Saturdays, coffee with my friends on Sundays, time with my grandchildren when David brought them over. It was a simple life, but it was mine, and that made it perfect. One Thursday afternoon, after my dance class, I was waiting for the bus when I saw someone familiar crossing the street. It was Robert. He was walking slowly, head down, hands in his pockets. He looked old, older than I remembered. He had more grey hair, more wrinkles, his shoulders slumped, as if carrying an invisible weight. I stood still. I didn't know whether to hide or stay where I was. I decided to stay. Robert looked up. He saw me. He stopped dead in his tracks. For a moment, neither of us moved. Then, slowly, he walked towards me. "Mary," he said with a hoarse voice. "Robert," I replied neutrally. "How are you?" "Fine." "And you?" He was silent for a moment. He looked at the floor, then at me. "Not very well, to be honest." I didn't respond. I just looked at him, waiting. "You look different," he continued. "You look good, happy." "Thanks." "Are you still living in the house?" "Yes." "That's good. That house was always more yours than mine." There was an awkward silence. The noise of the traffic filled the space between us. "Mary, I wanted to tell you something," Robert said with a trembling voice. "I'm listening." "I made the biggest mistake of my life when I left you. I know it now. I know it every day when I wake up, every night when I go to bed. Losing you was losing everything." His words floated in the air, but they no longer touched me. They no longer hurt me. "And Margaret?" I asked. Robert made a pained expression. "Margaret and we're not together anymore." That surprised me. "What happened?" "What had to happen," he said bitterly. "It turns out that when you build something on lies and betrayal, it doesn't last. It can't last." "When did you break up?" 3 months ago. We started fighting. All the time. About everything. She complained that I wasn't the same anymore, that I had changed, that I didn't look at her like I used to. And was that true? Yes, it was true. Because every time I looked at her, I saw what I had lost by being with her. I saw your face. I saw David. I saw my family destroyed. "So you left her?" "No. She left me." I almost laughed, but I restrained myself. "She left you?" "Yes. She told me she was tired of living with a ghost, that she was tired of competing with your memory, that she deserved to be with someone who truly loved her." "And you? Did you love her?" Robert was silent for a long time. When he spoke, his voice was barely a whisper. "I thought I did, but now I realize that what I felt wasn't love. It was escape. It was the thrill of something new. It was the ego of feeling desired. But it wasn't love. True love. I had that with you, and I was too stupid to see it." I didn't know what to say. Part of me felt satisfaction. Part of me felt sadness. "Where are you living now?" I asked. "In a small apartment, on the other side of town. Alone. Very alone." "And work?" "I lost some clients. When what I did became known, when people found out, many stopped trusting me. They say that if I was unfaithful to my wife, how can they trust that I won't steal from them?" There was karma in that, a poetic justice. "I'm sorry," I said. And it was true. Not because I wanted him to be doing badly, but because I saw a man destroyed by his own decisions. "Don't be sorry. I deserve it. I deserve all of it." The bus was arriving. I could see it in the distance. "I have to go," I said. "Mary, wait. Do you think you could ever forgive me?" I looked him in the eyes, those eyes that I once knew so well. "I already forgave you, Robert." "You really did?" "Yes, I forgave you months ago. Not for you, but for me." because I couldn't keep carrying that resentment. Then do you think we could try again? Start over? And there it was, the question I perhaps once dreamed of hearing, but not anymore. No, Robert, we can't. Why not? I love you, Mary. I still love you. Maybe you love me, love, or maybe you just miss the comfort of what we had. But it doesn't matter anymore, because I already moved on, and I'm not going back. Mary, please. Robert, listen to me carefully. I wish you the best. I really do. I hope you find peace. I hope you learn from your mistakes. But that peace and that learning you won't find with me. The bus stopped in front of us. Take care, Robert. I got on the bus. I sat by the window. I watched him stay there, standing, alone, in the middle of the street, watching me leave. And as the bus drove away, I felt a strange mix of emotions. Sadness for the man he once was. Relief that he was no longer my problem. And peace. A lot of peace, because I had finally closed that chapter of my life. When I got home, I called David. I needed to tell him. "Mum, are you okay?" he asked, worried. "Yes, son, I'm fine. Better than fine, actually." I told him everything. The encounter, the conversation, everything. "And how do you feel?" he asked me. "Free," I answered. "For the first time in a long time, I feel completely free." "I'm glad, Mum. You deserve it." "How is Lucy?" "Better. She's going to therapy. She's trying to heal her relationship with Margaret. It's difficult, but she's making the effort." "Give her a hug from me." "I will." "Mum, can I tell you something?" "Of course, son." "I'm proud of you. Very proud. You faced all of this, with dignity, with strength. You are an example to me." My eyes filled with tears. "Thank you, son. Those words mean more than you can imagine." That night I slept deeply. No nightmares, no anxiety, just peace. The following months were quiet, routine, and I loved that routine. Until one day, 6 months after my encounter with Robert, I received a call from David. "Mum, I need to tell you something." His voice sounded serious. "What happened?" "It's about Dad." I got a knot in my stomach. "Is he okay?" "Yes. Well, physically, yes. But he's very bad emotionally. I went to visit him a few days ago." "Mum, his apartment is depressing. He barely has any furniture. He's alone. He doesn't eat well. He looks destroyed." I felt a pang in my chest. "Why are you telling me this, son?" "Because I thought you should know. I'm not telling you to do anything, just I thought you should know." "Are you helping him?" "I try. I go see him when I can. I bring him food. We talk. But it's hard, Mum. It's hard to see my dad like this." "I know, son. I'm sorry." "You don't have to be sorry. He put himself in that situation." That night I couldn't sleep, thinking about Robert, thinking about the man he once was, my son's father, my grandchildren's grandfather. I didn't feel love for him. That had been gone a long time ago. But I felt compassion. Compassion for a man who had destroyed his own life by making bad decisions. The next morning, I did something I never thought I would do. I called Robert. "Mary?" he answered, surprised. "Hello, Robert. David told me you're not doing well." There was a silence. "I'm surviving." "Have you eaten today?" "Not much. I haven't had much of an appetite lately." "I'm going to bring you food. I'll make something and stop by your apartment." "You don't have to do that, Mary." "I know. but I'm going to do it anyway. I hung up before he could say anything else. I spent the morning cooking. I made rice, stewed chicken, beans, cornbread, everything Robert liked. I wasn't doing it out of love. I was doing it out of humanity. Because despite everything that had happened, he was still my son's father, and I couldn't stand by and watch him destroy himself. When I arrived at his apartment, I knocked on the door. Robert opened it. And what I saw broke my heart. He was much thinner. He had deep circles under his eyes. His clothes were too big for him. The apartment behind him was dark, empty. "Mary," he said with a broken voice. "I brought food," I said simply. I walked in. I put the things in the kitchen. There was almost nothing, just a small table, one chair, an empty refrigerator. "Sit down," I told him. I prepared a plate. I served him. I sat across from him. "Eat." He started eating, slowly in silence. I just watched him. When he finished, he looked up. "Thank you," he said with tears in his eyes. "You're welcome." "Why did you do this? After everything I did to you?" "Because even though I no longer love you, even though I no longer want to be with you, I can still be compassionate. I can still be human." Robert started crying. They weren't sobs. They were silent tears that rolled down his cheeks. "I've lost everything, Mary. Everything. My family, my job, my dignity, my happiness. And it's my fault. It's all my fault." "Yes, it is your fault. But you can learn from this. You can change. You can be better." "Do you think I can ever get back anything I lost?" "I don't know, Robert. That depends on you. It depends on the decisions you make from now on." I stood up. I left the food containers in the refrigerator. "Here is food for several days. Eat well. Take care of yourself. And seek help. Go to therapy. Talk to someone. You can't keep going like this." "Will you come back?" "No. This is all I can do. The rest is up to you." I walked towards the door. "Mary." He called out to me. I turned around. "Thank you. For this. For everything. For being a better person than I was." I nodded, and I left. As I drove back home, I thought about everything that had happened, about how karma had caught up with Robert and Margaret. Robert had lost his family, his reputation, his peace. Margaret had lost her daughter, her dignity, and the man for whom she had sacrificed everything. It hadn't been a revenge I had planned. It had been life, life collecting its debts. And I had come out of all of this stronger, wiser, more me that night. I sat in my garden. The flowers I had planted were in full bloom, beautiful, vibrant, full of life, like me. And for the first time in a long time, I smiled. A genuine smile, complete, because I had survived. I had not only survived, I had flourished. And as I looked at the stars in the night sky, I knew with certainty that my story did not end with pain and betrayal. It ended with redemption, with peace, with a new beginning. And that was more than many people achieve. He once called me crazy for suspecting. Years later, I saw that same emptiness in his gaze while he was alone in that apartment. Life always collects its debts. Have you seen how karma brings justice in your own life? Share your story in the comments. 3 years have passed since that day I opened my bedroom door and saw Robert packing his suitcases with Margaret. 3 years that feel like a lifetime. Today I am 61 years old, and I can say with certainty that I am happier now than at any other time in my life. It's not a loud happiness. It's not a happiness of great events or extraordinary achievements. It is a quiet, deep happiness, the happiness of knowing myself, of respecting myself, of loving myself. Every morning I wake up in my house, that house I once shared with Robert, but that is now completely mine. I've been redecorating it little by little. There are no longer photographs of the marriage on the walls. Now there are paintings that I painted myself. There are photographs of my grandchildren, of my friends, of the places I have visited, because yes, I have travelled. Something I never did with Robert, because he always said we didn't have the money, or that it wasn't the right time. I've been to Florida, to California, to Maine, sometimes alone, sometimes with my sisters, sometimes with my friends, and on every trip I have discovered a part of myself that had been dormant. The bookstore where I work has become my sanctuary. I spend my days surrounded by books and people who love them. I make recommendations, organize book clubs, listen to stories. And sometimes, when a woman walks in with that lost look that I knew so well, I make her a cup of tea and listen to her. Because I know what it's like to feel broken. I know what it's like to feel that your life is over. And I also know that it's not true. That life doesn't end when a man leaves. That life only begins when you decide that you matter. My grandchildren are my joy. Sebastian is 8 years old now, Sophia is 6, and David and Lucy just had another baby, a girl. They named her Mary. When David told me the name, I cried. I cried with happiness, with pride, with love. Mum, we want her to have your name because you are the example of what we want her to be, a strong, brave woman who doesn't give up, he told me. There are no words to describe what I felt at that moment. David and I are closer than ever. He calls me every day, visits me frequently, includes me in everything. And Lucy has become the daughter I never had. She also healed, little by little. She forgave her mother, although their relationship never went back to the way it was. Mrs. Mary, you taught me that forgiving doesn't mean forgetting, and that setting boundaries isn't being a bad person, it's taking care of yourself, she told me once. She told me that Margaret now lives in Chicago, far away, alone. She works in an office, lives in a small apartment. She sees Lucy once or twice a year. She's okay, I think, Lucy told me. She's not happy, but she's surviving. I didn't feel satisfaction hearing that, only sadness. Sadness for a woman who sacrificed so much for so little. And Robert is still in town. He lives in that same apartment. His business improved a little. He recovered some clients. It's not what it was before, but he's surviving. David sees him from time to time. He tells me he's better, that he's going to therapy, that he's trying to be a better person. And is he alone? I asked once. Yes, Mum. He's alone. I think he understands that he needs to be, that he needs to learn to live with himself before trying to be with someone else. I haven't seen him again since that day I brought him food, and that's fine. Sometimes I wonder if he thinks about me, if he regrets his decisions, if he imagines what his life would have been like if he hadn't betrayed me. But they are just fleeting thoughts. I no longer get caught up in them. Because the truth is that his life is no longer my problem, and mine is beautiful. This morning I woke up early. I made coffee, that strong black coffee that I like so much. I sat in my garden. The sun was just coming up. The sky was painted oranges and pinks. The flowers I planted 3 years ago have grown so much. The garden is full of colour, of life. And as I drank my coffee, I thought about everything I've learned. I learned that self-love is not selfishness, it is survival. I learned that forgiving is not forgetting, it is letting go. I learned that you can love someone for 30 years and still have the courage to let them go when they hurt you. I learned that betrayal says more about the person who betrays than the person who is betrayed. I learned that karma is real, that life has a mysterious way of balancing things, that bad decisions have consequences, and that those consequences don't always come from the outside. Sometimes they come from the inside, from guilt, from remorse, from the emptiness of having lost something valuable. I learned that it is never too late to start over, that at 58 years old you can discover who you really are, that you can reinvent yourself, that you can flourish. And I learned that happiness does not depend on having someone by your side. Happiness depends on being okay with yourself. My life is now full of small moments that bring me joy. The hug of my grandchildren, the laughter of my friends at Sunday coffee, the smell of new books in the bookstore, the taste of hot chocolate on cold afternoons, the silence of my house, a silence that no longer feels empty, but full of peace, the music I play while I cook, old soul songs that remind me that I have lived, that I have loved, that I have lost, but that I am still here. Sometimes, very rarely, I think about that Mary who was standing in the doorway of her bedroom, watching her world collapse, and I wish I could hug her, tell her that she's going to be okay, that it's going to hurt, that it's going to hurt a lot, but that she will survive. And not only that she will grow, that she will heal, that she will flourish in ways she never imagined, that the version of herself that is on the other side of the pain is stronger, wiser, more complete than she ever was. Last week, something happened that made me smile. I was at the bookstore organizing some books when a woman walked in. She must have been about 55 years old, sad eyes, slumped shoulders. "Excuse me," she said with a trembling voice. "Do you have any books on how to get over a betrayal?" I looked her in the eyes and saw my reflection from 3 years ago. "Yes," I told her with a kind smile. "I have several, but before I show them to you, would you like a coffee?" She seemed surprised. Well, if it's not too much trouble." "It's no trouble at all." I prepared 2 cups of coffee. We sat in the small reading corner of the bookstore, and there, for an hour, she told me her story. Her husband had been unfaithful to her, with her best friend. They had been cheating on her for 2 years. She had just found out. It was my story, with different names, but it was my story. When she finished talking, she was crying. "I don't know how I'm going to get over it," she sobbed. "I feel like I'm going to die, that my life is over." I took her hand. "Your life is not over. I know because I went through the same thing. And look at me. I'm here. I'm okay. I'm happy." "Really? Can you really get over it?" "Yes, it won't be easy. It won't be fast. But yes, you can. If I could, you can too." I told her my story. Not all of it. Just enough for her to know that I understood her pain. "And what do I do now?" she asked me. "Now you allow yourself to feel. Cry as much as you need to cry. Get as angry as you need to get angry. But when you're ready, when the pain begins to subside, start looking for who you are without him. Start remembering that you existed before him and that you will continue to exist after him." "And forgiveness? How do I forgive something like that?" "You forgive when you're ready, not before. And you do it for you, not for him. Because resentment is a poison that only hurts you. But forgiving doesn't mean forgetting. It doesn't mean going back. It means letting go. It means stopping carrying that weight." She wiped her tears. "Thank you. Truly, thank you for listening to me, for giving me hope. That's what women are for, to support each other." When she left, I kept thinking about that conversation, and I realized something. My pain had not been in vain. Everything I had been through, everything I had suffered, had turned me into someone who could help other women, someone who could be a light in their darkness. And that gave meaning to everything. This afternoon, as I write these lines in my diary, I look out the window. The sun is setting. The sky is painted with beautiful colours. My black coffee is warm on the table. It smells like cinnamon and comfort. I hear the birds singing in the garden, and I feel a deep gratitude. Gratitude for having survived. Gratitude for having learned. Gratitude for being here, now, being this version of myself. I don't know what the future holds. I don't know if I will ever love again. I don't know if I will ever trust someone like that again. And it's okay not to know, because I learned that I don't need to have all the answers. I just need to have peace. And peace is exactly what I have. If someone were to ask me, Mary, was all that pain worth it? I would answer, the pain is never worth it. But what I learned from the pain, that was worth it. Because that pain taught me to value myself. It taught me to set boundaries. It taught me that I can be alone without feeling lonely. It taught me that someone else's betrayal does not define my worth. And it taught me that I can get up, again and again, no matter how many times life knocks me down. To the women who are listening to this story, to the women who are going through something similar, I want to tell you something. I know it hurts. I know. I know you feel like your world has ended, that you will never be happy again, that you will never trust again. But I promise you that you will. Yes, you will be happy again. Yes, you will trust again. Yes, you will love again. But first you have to love yourself. You have to remember that you are valuable, that you are enough, that you deserve respect, loyalty, true love. And if someone cannot give you that, if someone chooses to betray you, deceive you, hurt you, that person does not deserve you. Period. It doesn't matter how many years you spent together. It doesn't matter how much you invested in that relationship. It doesn't matter how much you love him. If that person doesn't value you, let them go. And I know it's hard. I know. Because I lived it too. But on the other side of that pain, on the other side of those tears, on the other side of that betrayal, there is a life waiting for you. A better life. A life where you are the protagonist. A life where you decide. A life where you matter. And that life is beautiful. So don't give up. Don't let the pain destroy you. Use it, learn from it, and grow through it. And when you're ready, when you've healed, share your story. Because your story can be the light someone else needs to get out of their darkness. I am here today, at my 61 years old, happy, at peace, complete. Not because I found another man to complete me, but because I found myself, and I discovered that I was already complete all by myself. I always was. I just needed to remember it. And if my story helps even one woman to open her eyes, if my story gives strength to even one woman to get up, if my story shows even one woman that yes, she can, then everything, absolutely everything I went through will have been worth it. Thank you for listening until the end. Thank you for allowing me to share my story with you. And remember, you are stronger than you think, you are more valuable than you imagine, and you deserve to be happy. Always. With all my heart, Mary Thompson. Thank you for listening until the end. If this story touched your heart, subscribe and hit the little bell to hear more stories of women who turned their pain into wisdom. Every day, one woman, one life lesson. Share this story with someone you love. Sometimes a story like this can change an entire day. God bless you, and until next time.